Hey, I'm living in beautiful St. Louis, where it's quite different. Quite different from New York, quite different from Florida, and California.
Culture shock.
Culture shock when I first went there.
Because you grew up in L.A. and then you spent so much time here in New York.
Yes, I also spent a lot of time in Florida too. So going to Missouri was definitely a new start and new breed of life, and it's been wonderful. I've really enjoyed the people in St. Louis and just the home down to earth people in the Midwest.
Well, didn't you say good riddance to New York when you joined the Dodgers? Although you also say that it was the saddest day in your life when you left the Mets?
No question. It was the saddest day leaving New York. I got so accustomed to, what New York was all about, New York fans, and playing in this atmosphere. And, I thought it was a great move to leave at that particular time to go home and play at home in California.
You saw that as your comfort zone?
I thought it would be a comfort zone, but when I realized it and I got out there, it wasn't New York. I was so accustomed to, what the atmosphere was like in New York, the fans, and what baseball was and what sports meant in New York. L.A. was a little different, it was more laid back. They come late and leave early. New York fans don't come late and they don't leave early.
What about expectations? Because when a star moves to another team, it's assumed that he's going to be a savior. The Dodgers were struggling in those days.
No question. I think the expectations were great, but I've always was prepared for expectations. I lived through that, playing my first 8 years here, the expectations, and I went out and played as well as I could and gave my best every night I put on the uniform. So the expectations were always great, but I really never concerned myself. I was more concerned about the atmosphere. I was used to, when you didn't play well, New Yorkers are going to let you know, and that was a great thing for me because it was kind of a booster for me to energize myself even more to go out there and want to play well. But L.A., it was different. They didn't do that. They kind of just like, oh, if you don't play well, then so be it.
You did return to play for the Yankees. Talk about pressure.
Well, it was a different time. I was older and I had experienced some things in life, and it was a different time, and it was another challenge. I think the greatest thing about that, it was a challenge for me because the sports writers had written me off and said I couldn't. He couldn't play no more. Yankees didn't need him. But the boss, George, thought, he wanted me to be a part of his Yankee teams. I always wonder, where do they come from? Who expectations? Is it from the opinions of sports writers, that write about a particular person? What is expectations? That's what I've always looked at it as. It's hard enough to play the game. It's more difficult than it seems to be just because you're gifted. It doesn't really mean that you're going to excel, because there's been a lot of great gifted athletes that never achieved and excelled to that point.
And then there are other athletes who don't have all the gifts who do very well.
Who do very well. Those that don't have all the gifts do very well because there's no pressure to perform. It's just nobody's expecting them to, really be the superstar. That's someone that can actually carry a team, put a team on his back and carry a team. So sports is so hard, and as a kid, when you're learning to play it, I always try to tell parents, allow your kid to have fun, because if he doesn't have fun, and you force him into it, and you push him in, put him in a situation, he's not going to be able to enjoy himself, and that's what it really all boils down to.
But you didn't begin thinking of yourself as a baseball player. You were going to play basketball?
No, yeah, I thought about playing basketball. I love playing basketball. I started really developing into basketball when I was in high school, and I realized, hey, this is fun. Especially I was tall, and then I was, turning out to be pretty good as a basketball player. But in the back of my mind, I always knew baseball was my sport. I always knew I had it, I just knew I had it in baseball, what it takes to play, because the competition was a little bit different. It's that one-on-one, you against pitcher, and that's a real challenge.